So I am here with the Schilz family, and we are going to do our first family interview. We have Nate and Natalie and Naomi and Joe and Jill, and they have been super willing since I asked them to answer some questions that I have. So let's start off with the first one. How are you guys and your family? How are you guys keeping occupied? Like, what are some things that you guys are doing every day that are like kind of making your schedule kind of normal at least? And like, are there any creative things that you figured out that you're like, oh, this has been really fun and we've done this like every day or every other day because it fills a lot of time and we have a lot of fun doing it.
Who wants to answer that?
Well, we've been making like bracelets out of strings and stuff.
Crafty
Ooh,
stuff.
good one.
Board games.
Lots of we've been getting new songbooks. Amazon, thank goodness for Amazon. So we have like a little family time, singing at the piano. Not always worship songs. Sometimes it's Billy Joel or John Denver.
Hey, Billy Joel is fine in my book. That's fine with me. Yeah, crafts are definitely like that's the one thing you gotta like figure out. Rose and I went to our craft bin the first day and we pulled out the craft bin and we were like, what can we make? And we like looked inside, we are like, oh, this is like a lot of like teaching decorations and like prizes and stuff. We were like, there's like one roll of yarn. We're like, we can't do too many crafts for one roll of yarn. It's not gonna work out too well. Yeah. Well, those are all really good things. Songbooks, if you have a piano or you're musically inclined, which I have neither of those things. But those are all really good things. So for the kids, for Natalie and Nate and Naomi, how has it been doing distance learning and trying to do school and not seeing your teachers, but seeing them on video, but still not being with all your friends and classmates and stuff like that? How has it been doing all that kind of stuff?
Well, Nate, you've been doing like FaceTime with your friend, some of your friends, right?
Yeah.
So
I can like talk to them and like work on school stuff together with them.
Oh, Nate, you're the first kid I've talked to that said I've called my friends and worked on schoolwork with them. So congratulations to you.
They're very productive actually together. Pretty amazing.
That's good.
How about you, Missy? Speak up.
Sometimes I
speak loud enough so you can hear.
Sometimes I FaceTime my friend and I like normally I read like the science pages and we read it together. And then after we do that, we sort of like just talk for a little bit.
I think he's wondering, is it hard to do it at home? Is it easy? What do you guys think?
Well, I think it's a little bit harder because you can't. It's harder to talk to your friends
and your teachers.
Different questions.
Yeah, you can't just like raise your hand.
Right? Being able to raise your hand and ask a question right away.
Because sometimes like you like they explain it, but then you're still confused because you still don't know what like they're talking about. So that sometimes happens to me.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Jill and Joe, I've talked with a lot of families, and especially you, Jill, because you're also trying to teach from your house. How has it been trying to do distance learning and also being a parent? Like, how have you guys tried to find the balance of like, hey, checking up on the work, but also being like, I also have like all this other stuff I need to do myself. Like, I need to go to work or I need to teach from home or whatever it is. Like, how have you tried to like, I don't know, maybe limit yourself a little bit? Because I've talked to a lot of parents, they've been like, man, like I just don't know when to stop because man, if I was at school every day with my kids, I would just be like behind their back the entire time, making sure they were doing everything. And now they have that opportunity to do it. But it's like, how do you like limit yourself from doing that? Because it would just take up all of your time.
I think I'm still learning to do that. Joe goes to work every day, but I am trying to balance it at home. And I think probably for any parent who is at home right now, trying to work and trying to help. Natalie and Nate don't need too much help with their schoolwork, but Naomi, isn't used to doing a lot online. So I'm still trying to find the balance. because I do have students all day long who are texting me with questions and I'm responding to their work and they're revising and whatever it is. So it is kind of just a couple times this week, I just had to set my computer aside and say like, okay, my students are just gonna have to wait for like an hour while we go outside and enjoy the day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. I think everybody just has to take breaks and stay sane to some degree.
Yeah. And Joe's like, man, I'm going off to work. I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about all this teaching at home stuff. This is great.
Right.
No, that's
right. I mean, yeah, fortunately, I still am able to go into work every day. I mean, it's, as every day though, like certain people get sick or get symptoms. I mean, not every day, but anytime there's somebody that could have something, then, that they send them home because, you don't want to take any chances. So
right. Yeah.
a little bit, obviously it's a little different. It's just like anytime anyone else goes out somewhere, right? Grocery store or something, you're always a little anxious about it and trying to stay clean, if you will. But yeah, I mean, right. Fortunately for me for now, get to go to work every day and then come home and then hang out with everyone.
Little extra family time.
Because he's like the only outside guy we get to see. The only news from outside.
Oh, that's too funny. Have you guys planned? I mean, like Rosalie and I, we had plans for Easter. Those obviously aren't happening. Have you guys like made any alternative plans for Easter? Like, oh, we're gonna do this. Like, we're gonna have a ham delivered to our house, and we're gonna have our own like mini little Easter dinner with ourselves, and we'll video call our family or friends or whatever. Have you guys like thought about that at all? I don't know. I'm just trying to get ideas for myself or maybe other people who are watching this right now. But have you guys like thought about that at all? Like what you're gonna do for Easter besides hopefully log on to church on Sunday morning?
I don't think we've put a lot of thought into it. We have been Zoom calling with the family on Sundays. So we for sure will do that. I think the biggest thing for me was when we were thinking about what we normally do for Easter. There are so many things that we love every year, traditions and things with the cousins and the grandparents. And a lot of it really has little to do with the real meaning of Easter. So when we were thinking about what a bummer it is that we won't do like egg hunts with the cousins or all these fun things, I think it was a good chance for us to realize that maybe we've been putting a little bit too much emphasis on some of those things that we can't do this year. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think we still have to plan what we're going to do for Easter aside from church.
All right, that sounds good. Well, if you have any ideas, shoot them my way because, Rose and I are like, what are we gonna do? Like, it's just us two, like, and the dogs. I mean, maybe we'll have an Easter dinner with the dogs. I don't know.
We can FaceTime with you, buddy.
All right, perfect.
Right.
Well, the big Ridgewood family Easter dinner. What is for probably, and this is maybe more for Joe because you're out and about, but maybe for the kids outside, maybe Jill, for you as well at school. What has been like one of the most encouraging things or one of the like most uplifting things that you've seen like over these past 2 or 3 weeks?
I think it's just I would say just the amount that people help each other. I mean, Jill's been helping out our sister-in-law and brother-in-law and our nieces and nephew just to get them food and deliver it. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of that going on. And I don't know, that's probably the biggest thing for me as far as what I've been seeing.
Yeah.
I think it's made us at home. I don't know if you guys agree. I think it's made us appreciate more having siblings. We have some friends who are the only child. And
Natalie, I see your face in the back. When you said appreciate siblings, Natalie's face goes.
Well, like any siblings, these guys are sometimes like awesome friends and sometimes they're bugging the living daylights out of each other. But I think having somebody to play with when you're stuck at home, that's huge. It's huge. Yeah. It's really a gift.
Would the Schilz siblings agree with that statement?
Yeah. Most of it.
Most of the time.
No, you guys are lucky. Yeah. I mean, like if you were an only child, I think that's that's the hard thing for people. Like, like we have a neighbor who she lives alone, and it's just her and her dog, and thankfully she has a dog, and it's like she talks to the dog and that kind of stuff, because it's her friend, so she goes outside and she sees her other neighbors. But we have some other neighbors who they're widowed or whatever else, and they just live alone, and it's hard for them because who do you talk to all day? Like, there's nobody like that you can go outside with and go on a walk with. There's nobody that you can just like sit down and play a game with. It's just you. So yeah, that's definitely a blessing to have family and to have siblings to play with. Yeah, even though sometimes you might be at each other's throats because one of you wants to do one thing, but somebody wants to do the other thing. It's definitely a blessing for sure.
Definitely.
What's one thing that you've either learned about God or relearned about God? I think like this has been, Jill, like you said, with Easter, all of a sudden you're realizing like, oh, like all these things that we normally do, like they're not really part of like why we celebrate Easter. And maybe this year is like kind of this good time to step back from some things and say, not that these things are bad, like they're still fun to do and we still get to have fun, but like when we've placed so much emphasis or we're like, that's the thing that we're so excited about, like maybe we need to take a step back and say, okay, what is Easter all about? So like, what's one thing that either you guys have learned or relearned or re-seen or whatever it is, experienced about God, about the Bible, maybe about prayer, whatever it is, what's one thing relearned or learned?
Who wants to say? You guys think?
Well, I don't know.
I think for me, I'll give these guys a second to think. For me, I think it's easy with all the stuff that you hear in the news. When you read the news, all the news about Corona and everything, like this kind of panic, it's easy to get this sort of panicky prayer feeling like, oh dear God, like please, please. And I think the biggest realization for me since this started is that every day we have is dependent on God, whether or not there's Corona, every breath we take. And so, our time on earth is not, God doesn't tell us how long we're going to have. And every day is a gift. So in other words, we should be looking to him and thanking him for every day, regardless of whether this is going on or not. And I don't mean to minimize it. I know it's scary. And in an earthly sense, it's like, it is really freaky, but I think God takes care of us every day, regardless. Yeah.
And I think also, when we hear about all this stuff going on, like we can always go back to God. Like he's the rock. He's always the same. So no matter all this stuff that's going on, like it's good to know that God is the same. He is there. He is faithful. He's providing. Like it gives you a great, baseline to just rely on him.
Yeah.
Anything else you guys want to add or thought?
No, you guys took.
We took all your ideas. We took all their ideas.
No, Joe, Joe, what you said is so true. Like, it feels like, first off, like the news is like everything's changing every single day. And Rose and I were talking about this a couple nights ago. We said, man, if you didn't have something that was completely not changing, like God to like anchor everything on, like I don't know where I'd anchor myself on during this time, because everything is changing. And even the things that you think would be completely normal, like going to work every day or going to school, or all these things that you just assume are normalcy. And even when things come up, these things normally still happen. Like school is normally in session no matter what. Like it's bad snow, it's in session. Like it's bad weather, it's still in session. But like all of a sudden everything's shut down and everything's thrown into chaos. Yeah, and Joe, like you said, like there's only one thing that's not changing, and that's God. And it's like it's so good to go back to that again and again and again, because it's the only thing that we can hold on to. That's so good. That's so good.
I mean, right now you can't even go to the store and be sure that you're going to be able to get toilet paper. So
I know it's insane. I mean, it's crazy. But by the way, if anybody is out of toilet paper, I would like to make the offer out there that you can contact myself, and there are ways to get toilet paper. So if anybody's in need of that, just let myself or let Pastor Kent know. There's been some offers of excess toilet paper that some people have purchased. So there is hope if you're out. There were a couple people in our church that were running a little low, and we were able to give them a little boost. So
awesome. We're not out yet, but we'll let you know.